The mystery of the Death Stranding. Imagine a world where death has stopped being the end. One day, without warning, the boundary between the realm of the living and the realm of the dead dissolved. Mysterious explosions devastated cities, rewrote the geography of the planet, and tore open passages to something dark, something unspeakable. From those passages emerged the BT spectral creatures chained to a world that does not belong to them, doomed to wander among the living like shadows of everything that was lost. A single touch from them can trigger a thermonuclear explosion capable of wiping entire territories off the map. Humanity survived, but barely. Cities lie in ruins. People have taken refuge in underground bunkers, scattered, isolated, terrified. And this is where Sam Porter Bridges enters the picture. Not a hero in the traditional sense, no shining armor, no armies at his command. Sam is a porter, a man used to walking alone, to carrying the weight of others on his back, literally. But fate hands him the most impossible task imaginable, to cross a broken America, from east to west, to reconnect the fragments of a civilization on the brink of extinction. The face of the game, a Hollywood cast. What you see on screen is not just animation. Death Stranding is one of the few video games in the history of the medium to have assembled a cast worthy of a top-tier cinematic production. Norman Reedus, the iconic Daryl Dixon from The Walking Dead, lends his face, his voice, and even his most intimate emotional nuances to the protagonist Sam. Beside him, Mads Mikkelsen plays Cliff Unger, an antagonist whose motivation reveals itself, chapter after chapter, as heartbreaking as it is understandable. Lee Seydoux brings Fragile to life, a woman whose name is already a statement, seemingly vulnerable, in reality as hard as steel. And then there is Guillermo del Toro, yes, the director of Pan's Labyrinth, who appears in the game as Deadman, a character built from his very own visionary essence. The result is a narrative that does not merely entertain, it moves you, unsettles you, makes you think. Death Stranding is not just played, it is lived. Kojima's vision, break the mold. To truly understand this game, you need to understand who created it and in what state of mind. Hideo Kojima is the genius behind the Metal Gear Solid saga, one of the most influential in the history of video games. But in 2015, after decades of collaboration, Kojima and Konami parted ways in a bitter, almost violent split. Konami even removed his name from the credits of Metal Gear Solid 5. It was a deep, public, humiliating wound, and Kojima responded the only way he knows how, by creating. He founded Kojima Productions, a small independent studio, and got to work with an absolute creative freedom he had never had before. The answer to that freedom is Death Stranding. And with it, Kojima coined a new term, Strand Game, where shooters put a stick in your hand to strike. Death Stranding chooses the rope as its central metaphor, not to destroy, not to conquer, but to connect, to mend what has been broken. In a world that has forgotten what it means to be together, the most revolutionary act is to reach out. The heart of the experience, gameplay and innovation. And this is where the gameplay becomes something never seen before. Forget the frantic shootouts and hordes of enemies to cut down. In this game, the real challenge is walking, crossing, surviving the journey. Sam must carry enormous loads across hostile terrain, steep mountains, flooded rivers, shifting sands. Every step counts. The balance of weight affects the character's stability, and planning the route becomes a pure exercise in strategy. Into this context enters one of the most iconic elements of the game, the bridge baby. The baby, an infant kept alive in a pod resembling an artificial womb, capable of sensing the BTs, those creatures that ordinary living people cannot see. Sam carries the BB on his chest as a survival tool, but over time he builds something unexpected with it, a bond. The player learns to soothe it when it cries, to comfort it, to protect it. It is a game mechanic, yes, but it generates genuine emotion, almost disarming in its sincerity. And if Sam were to die, no game over. Death transports him to a place called the beach, a liminal plane of existence suspended between the world of the living and the world of the dead, from which he must find his way back. Even failure, in this game, has narrative consequences, the power of connection, social strand system. So far it might sound like a solitary experience, and in part it is. But Death Stranding has a secret heart, and it is called the social strand system. Players never meet directly, there are no lobbies, no PvP clashes, and yet you are never truly alone, because everything you build, a bridge over a difficult river, a ladder up a rocky cliff, a shelter from the rain, can appear in other players' worlds, automatically, silently, anonymously. You spent half an hour building a road to get past an obstacle that had you stuck. Somewhere in the world another player is walking down that road without knowing who built it. And the like system completes the circle, not out of vanity, but as a pure gesture of gratitude. Someone thanks you for something you did without expecting anything in return. In a video game that talks about connection, this is the moment where connection becomes real. Death Stranding does not simulate a community, it creates one. Technical and artistic excellence. All of this is wrapped in a technical and artistic presentation of absolute quality. The game runs on the Decima engine, developed by Guerrilla Games, and the digitally recreated Icelandic landscapes are of an almost painful beauty. Heavy skies opening over endless plains, waterfalls plunging into rocky silences, golden light filtering through clouds at dusk. But it is the soundtrack that makes the subtlest and most profound difference. To truly understand it, you have to go back even before the game launched, to the trailers. When Kojima showed the world the first Death Stranding teaser in 2016, nobody knew yet what this game was, but something about its atmosphere was already perfectly clear, and that clarity had a name: Low Roar. The Icelandic band was the very first musical piece introduced to the public. The track Easy Way Out in the 2016 teaser, and Then I'll Keep Coming in the announcement trailer, immediately established the tone: melancholic, otherworldly, suspended between an ending and a new beginning. Before anyone even knew what the game was about, you already knew how it would make you feel. That choice was not accidental. Kojima built a creative and thematic bond with Low Roar that goes far beyond a simple music license. In fact, the very first piece of official Death Stranding merchandise was not an action figure or a t-shirt, but a limited edition vinyl featuring their tracks, released by Mondo Records in collaboration with Kojima Productions. Inside the game, these songs surface slowly during the long crossings, as if they were born from the landscape itself. The original score is composed by Ludwig Forsell, and his work is extraordinary. But it is the Low Roar tracks that create those moments of sudden emotional rupture. Those seconds where you realize you are almost holding your breath in front of the screen. An expanding franchise. Death Stranding was not just a game. It was a turning point. With the director's cut, Kojima expanded and refined the original experience with new missions, new tools, and technical improvements that push an already extraordinary production even further. But the story does not end there. The world Kojima created is expanding beyond the boundaries of video games. A film produced by A24, the production house behind masterpieces like Midsommar and Hereditary, will bring this story to the big screen. And an anime adaptation is in development, ready to explore the darkest and most poetic corners of this universe. Death Stranding was a message about connection, about loneliness, about the possibility of rebuilding what has been destroyed. One step at a time, one burden at a time, one strand at a time, and apparently, the world was ready to hear it.